Hi. So we're going to start with the book of Matthew. And starting with the book of Matthew, we have the genealogy of Jesus at the very beginning. So I'm going to read it and then I'm going to discuss it. This is the genealogy of Jesus, the Messiah, the son of David, the son of Abraham. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of Perez and Zerah, whose mother was Tamar, Perez the father of Hezron, Hezron the father of Ram, Ram the father of Amminadab, Amminadab the father of Nahshon, Nahshon the father of Salmon, Salmon the father of Boaz, whose mother was Rahab, Boaz the father of Obed, whose mother was Ruth, Obed the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of King David. David was the father of Solomon, whose mother had been Uriah's wife. Solomon the father of Rehoboam, Rehoboam the father of Abijah, Abijah the father of Asa, Asa the father of Jehoshaphat, Jehoshaphat the father of Jehoram, Jehoram the father of Uzziah, Uzziah the father of Jotham, Jotham the father of Ahaz, Ahaz the father of Hezekiah, Hezekiah the father of Manasseh, Manasseh the father of Amon, Amon the father of Josiah, and Josiah the father of Jeconiah and his brothers at the time of the exile of Babylon. After the exile to Babylon, Jeconiah was the father of Shealtiel, Shealtiel was the father of Zerubbabel, Zerubbabel was the father of Abihud, Abihud was the father of Eliakim, Eliakim is the father of Azor, Azor the father of Zadok, Zadok the father of Akim, Akim the father of Elihud, Elihud the father of Eleazar, Eleazar the father of Mathan, Mathan the father of Jacob, and Jacob the father of Joseph, the husband of Mary, and Mary was the mother of Jesus, who was called the Messiah. Thus, there were 14 generations in all from Abraham to David, 14 from David to the exile to Babylon, and 14 to the exile to the Messiah. So, in this genealogy, what we see are some notable characters. We see Abraham, who obviously is the father of the Hebrew nation, and there's large amounts of the book of Genesis about Abraham. Isaac and Jacob, of course, those are the three founders of the Hebrew nation, and when considered by the Hebrew nation and God. And then further on, we see David quoted, but before David, it talks about Boaz, Obed, and Ruth, and Jesse. And those four have in particular stories about them, in particular Boaz and Ruth. Jesse, being the father of David, is spoken to in the book of Samuel, when Samuel is looking for the king of Israel, and Jesse has all these sons, and the sons, none of them meet the mark for who the king of Israel is going to be. And then little David, this shepherd out in the field, comes in, and he's the one that Samuel anoints. And from that line comes the Messiah, Jesus Christ. So there's these distinctions about, in particular, people of notoriety through all genealogies. Now, why is this genealogy important? It's important because Matthew's laying it out for the Hebrews to bridge that gap, like I said, between the last book in the Old Testament, which is Malachi, and this book of this Gospel of Matthew. So he had a plan, or rather God had a plan for why the book of Matthew is the first gospel within the four gospels, even though it was not the first written gospel. It is one of the three synoptic gospels, but like I said before, Matthew is the bridging gap for the Hebrew nation to understand, if they so choose, and accept the Messiah as Jesus Christ. And so that's something of importance. Now, moving on. I'm going to read more. Passage 18 to 24. So Joseph accepts Jesus as his son. This is how the birth of Jesus, the Messiah, came about. His mother Mary was pledged to be married to Joseph, but before they came together, she was found to be pregnant through the Holy Spirit. Because Joseph, her husband, was faithful to the law and yet did not want to expose her to public disgrace, he had in mind to divorce her quietly. But after he had considered this, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord had commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son, and he gave him the name Jesus. So Joseph is this character that you never really hear speak at all. He just follows direction. And he's the dad. He's also the carpenter that Jesus probably learned his trade from. And so he's like this quiet figure in the background that just does as he's told. And that's important to note too. The distinction in the lineage is important because it comes to Joseph on his side for Jesus's lineage. And as we go through the Gospels, you'll see that there's another lineage that's laid out that comes from Adam all the way down to Christ. So Jesus Christ has two separate lineages through his mother and his father that both determine and distinguish him as chosen Messiah through the Davidic line in both different ways.